Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to First Parish Church of Groton. We are a community seeking to deepen spiritually, to take care of one another, and to be a blessing to the world. My name is Becky Pine. My pronouns are she, hers. We do a lot of singing in this church, and we welcome every voice. One of my favorite songs is this. From thee I receive, to thee I give, together we share, and from this we live. I've done a lot of receiving this year. I've been nourished both spiritually and bodily by delicious home-cooked meals delivered to my door after 2 different surgeries. So, I am happy to be giving again today as your worship leader. During sabbatical, we are experimenting with a few changes, and one of them is that announcements will come here at the beginning before worship actually begins. Unitarian Universalism is a faith for all, so bring all of who you are, all of your beliefs, identities, abilities, challenges, and gifts. Bring all of what you've been and all of what you've done. There is room here for all of it. We are not concerned about sounds that children or anyone else may make during the service. We hope you won't be either. The service is broadcast several places downstairs and the area right behind me. There is a couch and a bathroom back there if anyone needs to take a break. Please join us for our Black Lives Matter vigil today and every Sunday at 11:30 on Main Street in front of the church. All are invited to coffee hour in the large room beneath us following the postlude music. Members of our welcoming team will be there, and especially if you are new, they would love to talk with you. During April, May, and June, we are offering 3 different small group ministry experiences. Details are in the newsletter and on an insert in the order of service today. If you would like to know what being in a small group might be like, leaders are offering a fun and engaging taste of small groups today at 11:45 downstairs. Today we welcome church member Sarah Yakabuchi to the shared pulpit. This church has been an integral part of Sarah's life for 13 years. She's found friendship, knowledge, peace, and comfort here, as well as many examples of strength and compassion. Sarah says that at times in her life, she has welcomed and appreciated the allyship of others, and today she will reflect on her journey as she pays it forward. Our congregation includes a wide diversity of beliefs, and we know that we don't need to think alike to love alike. We invite you to freely translate the language that you hear today. We have learned through the pandemic that our sanctuary is not this room or any place at all. Sanctuary is what we create together. Please come in and rest for a while. You are so welcome here. Now, if you would like, please take a moment to turn and say hello to those sitting near you. Or feel free to sit in quiet contemplation before the service begins.
Good morning.
spirit is being bestowed with the gift of sight and feeling. Two spirits have the gift of seeing from both a male and female perspective, and so in many cases it is easier to see in others as we can see into ourselves. Marcy, Angelise.
In Native America, being wise enough to say, I don't know, became a way to protect tribal culture. Cheyenne people, we call God Maheo. Maheo means, I don't know, because we don't know what it is, but it's everything.
The three bells at the start of worship invite you to settle into your body more fully. Remind you that you are whole. You belong wholly upon this earth. And you are held in the love that holds us all in tenderness. With each bell, I invite you to breathe in and release, or close your eyes and then open them. The first bell is for you. Second is for your loved ones. And the third is for the world. And now please stand as you are able and let us sing Love Will Guide Us, which is number 131 in the gray hymn. you are with us remotely, I invite you to get a candle and light it as we light our common chalice in the meeting house. Cassidy Dallas will light the chalice this morning.
Good morning, I'm Cassidy Dallas, and my pronouns are they, them, or he. One of my earliest memories is me sitting on a dock with my uncle, who was a father figure to me, and one of the wisest people I have ever met. A large spider crawled near my leg, and I squirmed and yelped. He gently put his hand over the spider and delicately slid the spider away from me. "Listen, kid," he said, and he has a Brooklyn accent, which for all of us, I'm not going to try to reproduce it this morning, but just hear it in a Brooklyn accent, please. What do you think that the spider felt like just now when you, basically a giant to them, made a loud noise and shifted around? You have so much power over that spider and can squish the spider at any moment. The spider is much more scared of you than you are of it, and for good reason. Recently, as I have been medically and socially transitioning my gender, appearing visibly trans every day, I have been watching how people respond when they see me. Every day, going out into the world, I feel scared to varying degrees. Many times, I am safe and have nothing to worry about, although others' fear and disgust is palpable. Sometimes, I am not safe, and the fear is for good reason. Fear makes us act in ways that are hard to understand. Like the spider, others have a large degree of power over me and over other trans people. They use the irrational fear and sometimes hatred that they have, in combination with this power, to enact violence against us and squash our rights and safety. Hi, Ezra. When I came to the powerful realization that the way I felt in the world as a visible trans person was likely the way that spiders feel every day, I wept. Like spiders, trans people have always been here, we have always existed, and we are an important and beautiful part of the world. We belong here, and people's feelings and beliefs about us don't change that. We make the world a better place just by being us. We are artists, we are natural, we have families, we have dreams. We are your neighbors in all senses of the word. We also often encounter violence, hatred, and pain when we are living our daily lives and want to be left in peace. We want to be safe. I light this chalice in honor of the kinship and siblinghood of trans folks and spiders. I light this chalice in gratitude of those who let the great love that holds us all be bigger than our fear, and speak up and use our power to keep each other safe. And I light this chalice with a call to action. We need each other now more than ever. Thank you.
Amen.
See if I can actually light the chalice, which is like the hardest part.
Now I'd like to invite Max Waters to come up to light the peace candle today. Each Sunday morning, we light a peace candle to remind us that we live in a time of war and that there is violence in so many places in our world. May everyone around the globe feel safe and strong and free and loved.
So you can remain seated and we'll sing Carolyn McDade's Spirit of Life. The words are in your order of service. For a minute. There we are. Good morning. My name is Lee Kenby. My pronouns are they, them, their, and I am your sabbatical minister here. And we are going to invite anyone who would like to be closer to our Time for All Ages to see the pictures. This is quite a wonderful picture book, actually. And we'll have a few little stories before we start. And I will remember to do the hand signals. Rebecca has been so good about reminding me after we're done. All right? So, we're changing that right now. Truth be told, I wrote hand motions on this stool. Yeah. Good morning. Hi. So we are Unitarian Universalists with minds that think, hearts that love, and hands ready to help and hug. That's our thing, hug, yeah. All right, so Cass, you can sit there. We're going to tell a few little, I'm going to give some examples here before we start the book.
Do you need anything else here?
No, we're good. So I'm wondering if any of you have ever tried on clothes or shoes that don't fit. Yeah, right? So what happens? You put them on and they're, yeah.
This morning,
Yeah?
I put on a sock and it was like half the size of my foot.
You put on a sock this morning that's half the size of your foot. How did that work for you? Yeah, no, not so much. Yeah. How else does it feel? What else could go wrong when trying on clothes? What do you think? You think I could get into that? No, probably nobody here could, right? So sometimes they're too small, like Caroline had, or like this would be too small. Sometimes they're too big, right? And sometimes they just don't work. Like it just doesn't feel right. Sometimes you just can't, yeah, it just doesn't work. Yeah. So I'm using that as a metaphor. Who knows what a metaphor is? Oh yeah, Zoe.
It's comparing one thing to another.
Exactly, comparing one thing to another thing. So that experience of putting on clothes, like imagine you put on the clothes that don't work. They don't fit, or they're too big, or they're too small, or they're just like, ew. And then somebody says, okay, those are the clothes that you have to wear for the rest of your life. You've got no other options. That's your clothes. That's what you were assigned. Those are the clothes you were assigned. Yeah. And so you're a kid and you're like, what do? You do your best, right? You wear them as long as you can. And you sort of move through the world. And people say, oh, that's fine. Those clothes are fine. And you're like, yeah, but it doesn't really, and they're like, oh, just stop making a fuss. Right? That's what it was like for me to be called a girl when I was little. It was like I had to wear something that didn't fit. And I did my best, right? I mean, I had a lot of, resources and energy. I did my best. But it wasn't until some young people actually helped me understand, right? Helped me understand, oh, Lee, you don't have to fit in the girl box and you don't have to fit in the boy box. What? Mind blown. And then a whole world opened up and it's like I got to wear whatever I want. And for the first time, I got to wear things that actually fit. That's what it felt like. Can you imagine like you're wearing clothes that feel horrible for, I don't know, how old are you, Max? You're 7? 7? Who's 7? You're 7. You're Max. I just looked at your sister and said Max. So let's say for 7 years, for 10 years, for 12 years, you've worn all these, and all of a sudden you get to take them off. Yeah. So the little kid in our book has a different kind of metaphor, right? This little kid in our book has this little monster here. Well, it's not so little. It's going to grow and change shape and size, and we're going to watch it all the way through the book. It's called Me and My Dysphoria Monster. So dysphoria is the name for that feeling uncomfortable in your body. Yeah. It's good. It's a good story. So Cassie will be sure to show you the pictures. Yeah.
Don't forget to put in the instructions.
Laura Kate Dale.
Is that
That's the name of the person.
Is
What?
that an axolotl?
Yeah, that is an axolotl.
Cassidy knows that that's an axolotl. I don't even understand what you're just talking about. All right. Hello. My name is Nisha. And this is my monster. My monster follows me everywhere. I actually wrote this out on my iPad. What did I do with my iPad? Here we go. Yeah, so I wouldn't have to do exactly this and make Cassidy point the book in the wrong way. Okay, let's see. I wrote it out, but I didn't put it in there. Okay, good. When I go to the beach with my mom, my monster follows me. When I'm taking photos with my cat, my monster follows me. Even when I play hide and seek with my friends, can you all find the monster? Yeah, hiding in the bushes. Oh man. Ooh, now it's gonna shape shift. Yeah, my monster used to be small, but recently my monster has begun to grow. When someone refers to me as a boy, my monster grows bigger. When people call me by a boy's name, my monster grows larger and larger. There's the boy's, okay, yeah. When I am told I must use boys' bathrooms, my monster doubles in size. Oh, and look at this, holy moly. It's huge. It's like a whole cloud. When my teacher tells me I must play on the boys' team, my monster grows bigger than a giant. Oh, would you want to have a monster like that following you around? Woo, this looks hard. That looks hard. I don't like being called a boy. Something just doesn't fit right. It doesn't feel right. And I really don't like my monster. And here, they're yelling at the monster. I wish my monster would just say what they were going to say, go away. 1, 2, 3, go away!
Go away.
Yeah. I don't think the monster's going anywhere though, do you?
I wish that worked.
I wish it worked, right? That would be so good. Yeah. But my monster doesn't listen. My monster only listens to everybody else. Why are you so much taller than the other girls in your class? You're growing into quite the gentleman. You have such a deep voice. Girls don't usually have deep voices, do they? My monster grows and grows. Until my monster is so huge, it just starts getting in my way all over the place. When I go to the beach with my mom, my monster doesn't let me swim. When my friends invite me to play, my monster doesn't let me join. So you can see our kiddos starting to get more and more isolated, like away from other people. Oh, geez, look what we got here. There's like 2 pages of monster right here. I feel very alone. I no longer feel like myself anymore. And nobody seems able to scare my monster away. One day, though, my dad introduced me to one of his friends. His name is Jack, and he has a monster just like mine. What? Jack, why do I have a monster? I asked. Well, said Jack, when we're born, a doctor announces if we are a boy or a girl. Yeah. But sometimes the doctor isn't right. Some people are told they're a boy when actually the person knows they're a girl, or some people are told they're a girl when they know they're a boy, or some people, like me, will grow up to not feel like a boy or a girl at all. But people will continue to call them a boy or a girl. That's like wearing those clothes that don't fit, right? And when that happens, people like you and me will go get a visit from our gender dysphoria monster. The monster is a little voice who knows who we are and who we want to be when we grow up, and it doesn't like to be ignored. Oh. But how do you get your monster to go away? Well, good question. How do you? Any guesses? Well, how did you, Jack? Jack says, first I told some adults about how I felt. I told them I was a boy and not a girl, and I wanted a new name, and I wanted to use pronouns he, him, his. And they let me use the name, and I liked it. And they let me change my clothes and my hair, and most importantly, they made sure everyone knew I was a boy. The monster still visits me sometimes, said Jack, but very rarely, and it's very small and quiet when it does. After speaking with Jack, I was very happy. Wait, there's no monster in this picture. Whoa, okay. Yeah. Just a little teeny monster. Like, oh look, who's got the monster by the tail now? I talked with my parents, and they stopped using my boy's name, and they called me Nisha. They started using she, her, hers pronouns when they were talking about me, and they let me wear the clothes that I got comfortable in. I was still the same person I had always been, I just changed some things so I was happier about myself. The monster's just kind of hanging out, getting smaller and smaller. Yeah. And with every little change, my monster began to shrink. When somebody called me a girl and smiled, my monster grew smaller. When I used the girls' toilets at school, my monster became smaller and smaller and smaller. And when they let me play on the girls' team, my monster shrank to the size of a pea. How big is a pea? Like that? Can you handle a monster that big? Yeah. Yeah. I think this kid can. While my monster still visits me sometimes, I don't mind seeing it every now and again. I know what it's trying to tell me. I began to swim in the sea again, and I said yes to my friends when they asked me to play, and I started to become a happier and a more confident person. Yeah. And in time, I grew up to be a smiling, happy woman that I always wanted to be. The end. Yeah, good reading. The end. Yeah. Does that make sense to anybody? Yeah. Does anybody have a friend who's transgender or non-binary? Yeah. Probably most of you do. Yeah. Cool. All right, so we're going to send you off downstairs. If you want to bring the book, you're welcome to. But here's our little chalice. Oh, thank you. I think you can also change their genders. The exolado can change their gender. Cool. All right. Thanks for listening. To Reverend Aaron Stockwell. Hello, my name is Aaron Stockwell. I use he, him pronouns. I have been a member of First Parish Church of Groton since 2004. I am coming up on 20 years of being a Unitarian Universalist. I joined because I sought community after being raised religiously unaffiliated. I stayed a member of First Parish Church of Groton because I love the sermons and the rituals. Even while I was away at school and seminary, mostly my support was in the form of money, because I knew that members of that church, this church, were receiving pastoral care and meals and inspiration, even if I wasn't there. I paid my pledge so that the lonely, the ill, and the grieving would have a place to gather. I paid my pledge, and have for years, because the truth that Ada Limon speaks in her poem, Dead Stars, comes to me. I wish to learn some new constellations to make sense of the world. I have forgotten the forgotten constellations. I have forgotten that I am made of stardust. I have forgotten that I am not an unspectacular thing, and I have decided to love harder and survive more. Aaron writes, I support congregational life because of the truth that I am both stardust and something spectacular. I am a minister because we each need to be reminded of those truths. I give because I know that we cannot go at this life alone. We are all in this together. Your support provides for the pastoral care you receive in challenging times, and for the pastoral care of the person next to you in the pew and the person worshiping via YouTube. Your support ensures excellent worship experiences with beautiful music for you and the person sitting on the other side of the sanctuary. Your support means that memorial services, weddings, and child dedications are all free for members. It means that you support the children and youth in this community and their religious exploration. A congregation is never a single entity. There is no actual thing called the congregation. It is made up of individuals. You make up the congregation. Apologies to Aaron, I forgot the other half of his last name is now Wiseman. So this is Reverend Aaron Wiseman. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Yakabuchi, and my pronouns are she, her. It was around the year 1995. I was sitting in the church where I had witnessed countless baptisms, first communions, confirmations, weddings, and funerals. It was the religion of my childhood. We were at St. Rita's Church for my cousin's first confirmation ceremony. The confirmation mass is when the candidate becomes a full-fledged member of the faith and is anointed with oil by a bishop donned in red attire. It is quite an event for the church. As the ceremony began, the local priest talked to candidates and then to all of those present in the church. He eventually concluded his introduction by telling us all that as we exited the church later, be sure to sign the petition at the back of the church that confirms that marriage is between a man and a woman. The petition would be then sent to Washington, D.C. I couldn't believe this. At the ceremony with this overpacked church, he spread this hate. Everyone just sat there as we continued the ceremony. I suddenly felt a bit dizzy hot, like I was suffocating, trapped in this overcrowded church. I must have been visibly upset because my partner sitting next to me, Charlene, said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah," but I really wasn't. There were family members all around me and I had to be on my best behavior. I did not hear another word said by the priest nor the bishop. I began daydreaming what to do. I envisioned going over to the petition and shredding it, throwing the pieces up into the air like confetti, like the confetti we had thrown at my aunt's wedding a few years earlier at that church, or maybe just quietly taking the paper and putting it in my jacket as I exited. Charlotte must have known that I was plotting something, because she said to me, "This is your cousin's special event, and it's very important to your aunt." I said, "I know. I love my aunt, and she is devoted to this religion and had lovingly attended all of my religious ceremonies in my formative years, but I had to do something." When the collection basket came around, I gently placed a folded $1 bill into the basket. Inside my neatly folded dollar bill was a message that said, "Marriage is for everyone." I continued daydreaming as I imagined the money counter running and telling the priest that this heretical note was found. I sure hope that happened. I will never forget watching people sign that petition. It was events like these that helped me solidify my exit from the church of my childhood. It was years later when I learned that there were GSAs at high schools, these gay straight alliances, and principals and teachers were supporting gay kids. Librarians were setting up pride book displays. It was truly amazing to me. It was at this very church, First Parish Church, I saw allies to the LGBTQ community year after year organizing caravans to the Pride Parade. The majority of people in those caravans were allies to this community, not necessarily members of the community. This was amazing to me. Recently, I participated in an unpacking whiteness dialogue with a group of people from outside of First Parish Church. We spent 6 weeks having thoughtful dialogues about racial justice. It was a really good group. As we were deciding what to do next, maybe talk about the environment, healthcare, justice system, some intersecting topic, the word transgender came up. This very progressive, smart group changed, and this very unenlightened discussion erupted. We quickly closed the group and we said, we'll get in touch. But I thought, what to do? I don't know what to do. I started to search. I came upon this book, Reclaiming Two Spirits by Gregory Smithers. It's a wonderful book. I read it twice. What does this mean, two spirits? According to Native Americans, two-spirit does not mean gay. Two-spirit is not easily translated into English and cannot be used by non-Indigenous people. The term two-spirit refers to a person who has both a male and female spirit within them and are blessed by their Creator to see life through the eyes of both genders. A two-spirit person often has the role of peacemaker. I thought, how beautiful. Smithers wrote this incredibly thorough book spanning approximately 400 years about Indigenous communities in North America. Indigenous communities tend to have oral histories, knowledge keepers, and storytellers, and then some artwork. These communities did not write down their histories. In addition, about 95% of the Indigenous communities in North America have been lost. 95%. So where did Smithers get this history about the Indigenous communities of North America? Well, it turns out that there are preserved journals, manuscripts, diaries, memoirs, and articles written by the explorers, invaders, conquistadors, traders, colonizers, fur trappers, settlers, and missionaries who came to North America looking for wealth, land, and fame. The majority of these records were written with contempt for these North American Indigenous communities. I will not repeat here the hateful words used in these records. We've all heard these words. But the wonderful thing about these journals is that they contain explicit details about the life and communities of Indigenous people of North America. There is intricate detail about family, community, and societal structure. There is no simple nor singular way to describe the indigenous people of North America. In Smithers' book, there are details on a common theme from hundreds of tribes who were once located in what we now call Florida, Texas, New Mexico, California, Oklahoma, Oregon, New York, Alaska, Dakota, and Canada. In these records, there seems to be an extraordinarily large amount of information about gender fluidity in these communities. Hundreds of tribes with gender fluidity. Gender fluidity seemed to be something that was incomprehensible to these Christians. The journal contains hateful words that were used to help justify their conquering, pillaging, and brutality. Coloners seemed to be both irate and threatened when positive terms were used to describe gender fluidity. Their way to deal with this concept, this foreign concept, was to call it all immoral. These hateful words in these journals could not be further from the truth. In actuality, these indigenous communities were sophisticated, enlightened, balanced, and compassionate. Of course, they were not perfect, but they were quite remarkable. As described in the book, in most indigenous communities, gender is independent of biology. Gender is more related to your contributions to society, your role in society, your gifts. Would you be a caretaker, a farmer, a hunter, a warrior, a leader, a teacher? When children were born, they were not called by a specific gender. They were just called child. They were just called sibling. They would grow into their gender as the individual and community better recognized their gifts. Plus, gender was fluid, malleable, and changeable. There was a story of a woman whose husband died, so she went from caregiver to hunter. This would be considered a change in gender. In one of the journals, there was a description of some people who the colonizers called the lowest of society, as their job was to remove the casualties after a horrific battle. Jeremy Smithers says, wait, let's look at this a little bit differently. The lowest of society? In these indigenous communities, there is nothing more important than taking care of the sick and dying. Instead, let's envision these gender-fluid, gentle, beautiful, strong people with beards, long hair, loose-fitting clothing, picking up and carrying these injured people. These caretakers were people who played an important and sacred role in the society. There could not be a more important job than nurturing the sick and comforting those who were dying. I love the images that Smithers distilled from these journals. Some of these indigenous communities had many genders, 3 genders, 5 genders, 7 genders, unlimited genders. They also use beautiful words to describe these gifted members in their society. Instead of connecting gender to biology or sexuality, they use terms like peacemaker, sacred, instructed by the moon. That's my favorite, instructed by the moon. Woman-hearted man, man-hearted woman, two-spirit, and there are many more that can't be translated into English. This book is called Reclaiming Two Spirits because there is a group of indigenous community members who are working hard to re-examine and reclaim fundamental parts of their communities. They are closely looking at what parts of their communities have been deeply influenced by colonization, assimilation, and Christianity. I love this idea of re-examining and rethinking gender. There is so much to think about. I find it exciting and mind-bending. I'm going to close now with a quick story. When I was young, there was always this special day in August when my parents would bring my 7 siblings and me out to go shopping for new school shoes. We would go to the Hush Puppy store, and my mother would say that she would meet all the girls in a little while at a bench in the girls section, and my father would take care of the boys. My sisters would always be negotiating with my mother to maybe get patent leather shoes, high heels, maybe 2 pairs of shoes, they might need them. One year, I remember walking the aisles, and as usual, nothing seemed to interest me, but then I saw them. A pair of tan, ankle-high boots, which I know today is desert boots. I thought, these are perfect. They tie up, there's no buckles, there's no straps, there's no heels, and they don't make any noise when I walk. The perfect shoe. But there was one problem. They were in the boys section. There were none in the girls section. I went to the boys section. I grabbed several boxes of shoes and I quickly made it back to the girls section. There I was trying on these shoes when my mother and siblings saw me and said, "Those are boys' shoes." I said, "No, they're not." And I showed them all the boxes in the girls section. I knew darn well they weren't girls' shoes and I was really embarrassed. I guess my mother believed me, or she was just too exhausted to argue, and so she allowed me to get these shoes. But then on the way home, I panicked. I thought, I made a big mistake. What do people at school know they're boys' shoes? And people say things, and what am I going to do? I'm not going to be allowed to get another pair of shoes. I'm going to have to wear them all year. It's just a big mistake. So a few weeks before school started, I went out to the mud, and I got them all scuffed up and scratched up, and I made sure they looked like well-worn shoes that would not attract any attention at all. I did love those shoes, and I still remember them. So, little Sarah was told she had to select from a certain set of shoes. It was a big selection of suit shoes, but none of those shoes seemed to fit. I do not know what it is like to live in another person's body. I don't know what it's like to live someone else's life. But I do know that I have appreciated allies in my life. I felt safer, I felt more comfortable. I want to understand, I want to be an ally, I want to have strength and knowledge so that I can be supportive. Thank you. Now we'll all stand. Now we'll all stand. Oh, no, sorry, I'm not going to stand.
We'll stand. We're good.
Okay.
Stand as you're able. We're going to sing our song prayer. It's a nice swaying one. If you want to stay seated, that's fine. Will you enter with me into prayer, meditation? In the name of all that calls us forth, our God of many names and many understandings and one embracing love, we gather on this early spring morning, the second half of Lent. And some of us are grieving and some depressed. Some of us are anxious and some exhausted. Some of us are open and some seeking hope. And probably most of us are grimy and gritty and gracious with the wisdom and the love, born of laughter and of pain. We mark the changing seasons of our lives. Today we celebrate with Casey and Cassie and Gianna the birth of Chase and Gage, who arrived this past Wednesday. They were 5 pounds 1 ounce each and utterly astounding and healthy. We offer prayers of health and healing to those among us who are enduring challenges of body, of mind, of spirit. We pray for Helen's sisters who are facing illness, for a young person named Sean and Sean's family, for Leah, whose eye is healing, and for all we hold in our hearts today, including ourselves. And we focus our prayers on those who lead our states and nation. We ask for them what we ask for ourselves, the capacity to do justice, to love mercy, and to travel humbly on this earth. In this moment of worship, I'll invite each of us to consider the past week or two and bring to mind times of failure and regret, knowing these are common to all of us. Remembering the times when we have failed to do all we meant to do, or through our actions, we've failed to be all we wanted to be. And as we hold those memories in gentleness, we recall also from our past week or two those moments of integrity, those sparkling times when we lived into our values and we acted as the humans we dream of being. And we choose in this moment to lay down the burden of our shortcomings, to grasp the courage to begin anew. Together we affirm our capacity for goodness and spacious grace, for freedom and deep joy. We are never trapped in our past, but freed by creation to live and to grow today. May we be full of such implausible love that we know ourselves as flawed and still hold us in high regard. Such implausible love that we know each other as flawed and still hold each other in high regard. Blessed be. Amen. The hymn we're about to do, There Is More Love Somewhere, is a slavery-era African-American expression of hope and determination. To imagine even a tiny part of the context from which it originated, we know this song is radical. It's saying that what's in front of us right now isn't everything. There is always more for us to open ourselves to. There is more love. It's number 95 in the Pray hymnals, and I invite you to stand as you are able and willing.
Somewhere
asked me if I would do this service with her, which is just such an honor. And I want to say thank you. It's weird to have my back to you. Sorry. As soon as we're born, the culture gets to work installing what I'm calling a gender autopilot in our brains. It flies by people as you meet them, and it puts each one in a gender box, and there's a pink one and a blue one. And you can watch your own gender autopilot flying a little tiny gender plane around your mind. It's so fast and it's so automatic, it seems like just how things are. It seems obvious. Bodies determine gender before we're even born. If the parent or midwife or doctor who called you boy or girl when you were born got it right, that's called being cisgender. Cis means on the same side. Trans means on the other side. So most people who are cisgender live their whole lives believing that the gender binary, girl, boy, is just true, never questioning it. Some people get very upset when other people question it. But the thing is, gender is way more expansive and bigger than those boxes. Our beliefs are the foundation. The thoughts and the words come out of the beliefs. And questioning deep beliefs is hard. It can be really painful. It can be really disorienting. It can be difficult. And it requires courage, because it requires being able to tolerate saying, I don't understand. So the first thing I want to give you today is a big, giant permission slip. Full permission not to understand what trans non-binary experience is. Full permission not to understand how that could even be when everyone has told us from all of time as far as we ever knew it. We so rarely have any permission not to understand. Think about that for a minute. Our culture connects very closely not understanding with inadequacy and unworthiness. So we get very afraid of not understanding. But actually saying, I don't understand, I don't know, is the opposite. Because it's only when we're vulnerable enough to say, I don't understand, I don't know, that we can actually learn and change and grow and transform. So when you find your brain trying really hard to figure it out, I invite you to take a breath and step back and just watch how much you want to understand. Appreciate that part of you that wants to understand, or that wants to do it right and never ever make a mistake. It's okay. Mistakes are fine. Understanding stuff can be really important in our lives. And then there are times to choose to lead with the heart instead of the mind understanding. There are times to listen and to honor somebody's experience, even if you don't understand it. You don't need to understand to respect. You don't need to understand to love. You can lead with compassion. Understanding is not a prerequisite for compassion. If you are cisgender, can you imagine having a dysphoria monster like that blue one in our book? Can you imagine feeling like that little person with this chaotic giant thing, and it feels like it's gonna swallow you? Anytime somebody calls you by the name you were given when you were born? Can you imagine how much work it is every single day to be out in the world as non-binary, to decide in every conversation over and over, and sometimes over and over in the same conversation, whether or not to say, my pronouns are... And can you imagine the cost to mental health and spiritual health to have the core of your being not recognized and disregarded? It's hard, yes? And I'm here to tell you that I want this hard life of mine. I want this hard life. It is mine, and I want it fiercely. Who would I be if I didn't? I'll take this over a soft or an easy life that is defined by someone else. A hard life isn't necessarily a worse one. A hard life is not necessarily a worse life. Living as non-binary opened my heart and my energy 1,000-fold. Y'all didn't know me, most of you, before I did that, but it took the lid off my joy like nothing else ever had. It unleashed my energy and the kind of love I have to offer the world. It's like nothing else had ever done that before. It was my single most transformative moment. No one transitions so that things get easier and they feel less joy. I want this hard life. I want this big, wondrous, wild, hard life. Am I willing to trade moving easily in the world, moving with simplicity in the world for this huge, expansive joy and love that I wake up with every day? Hell yes, I am. You better believe it. Also understand that I can say this because I am in a place of enormous privilege. I'm a white, able-bodied US citizen. I'm an English speaker, I am educated, and I have the skills and the spiritual practice and decades of really good therapy to make sure I stay well mentally, that I stay well spiritually. I am not asking you to do the work of unpacking gender for me. This isn't about me. I'm lucky enough to already know that you guys actually don't get to determine my humanity. But not everyone knows that yet. Becoming can be really hard and really painful. Supporting each other as we become is what this church does. And I want us to offer that support to everyone who comes through the door. This isn't about me, but it can be through me as part of what I'm bringing you. I get that pronouns are hard. Language follows thought, and thought follows belief. You won't be able to consistently use they, them pronouns as long as you still believe in the binary. Only 4 people in this congregation knew me before I came out. So for everyone else, if you've ever called me she, that is your tiny little gender autopilot flying your tiny little gender plane around your mind. We all have them. It's not wrong, there's no guilt here. But those little pilots, they're arrogant. They think they can decide to ignore what someone says about who they are. It's not convenient for them, so they decide they know better. And they stuff me in a female box that I said very clearly on day 1 I don't belong in. Why do they do this? Because we have these warehouses in all our brains that have been stocked with only female boxes and male boxes. Male boxes, pun intended, okay. As soon as we stuff people into a gender box, the box automatically starts churning out pronouns. He, him, his, she, her, hers, he, him, his, she, her, hers, and on ad nauseum. So I brought a gigantic truckload of scissors and other tools that you can use to open some of those boxes in your mind. Help yourself to a tool. Open some of the boxes maybe on both ends, put them on their sides so you can see through them, get some fort material, some blankets, some pillows, spend some time there. Tell stories and practice pronouns. This is an open invitation to talk about me behind my back. Listen for a word that signals male or female, because that word doesn't belong there. So maybe I was sort of half listening to their sermon. What were they saying about boxes? Did you understand their metaphor? The pronouns aren't the understanding part, beloveds. The pronouns are the respect part. The pronouns aren't the understanding. The pronouns are the respect. The freedom that I want for us has 2 parts. The first part is fully embracing and loving and celebrating the depth and breadth of who you are. Your existence with no apologies, no hustling for worthiness. You are loved and beloved exactly as you are. And the but this is whether you lift weights and are really buff, or whether you play sports, or bake pastries, or wear makeup, or study history, or collect fountain pens, right? To know that you have entire worlds within you, gigantic, beautiful, expansive worlds. That's freedom. And this is also freedom, the second part. Freedom part 2 is knowing that actually to really be free, you have to fight for the gigantic, beautiful, expansive worlds inside everybody else. That is the critical shift from freedom to liberation. That's the commitment that church asks us to make. That's the promise. Because all our liberation is interconnected. This is love and justice for all time. The work we do to liberate gender is for all of us. It's the same as the anti-racism work. It's the same as the work to fully include people with disabilities. It's for all of us. Non-binary poet Andrea Gibson, who sometimes goes by Andrew, writes this. I explain my gender by saying I'm happiest on the road when I'm not here or there, but between. The yellow line running down the center of it all like a sunbeam. Why does it bother people so much that I'm a sunbeam? Love is all there is. It is loving to choose to see both ourselves and others through an infinite lens. It is loving to honor each individual's right to paint the canvas of themselves in the brief time that we're here. It is loving to ask someone who they are rather than telling them who you think they are. That is loving. Our final hymn is an old song. It's an old gospel tune, and in 1959, Mamie Brown adapted it and reworked it into a freedom song. A few years ago, a bunch of people were arrested in Birmingham, not a few years ago, a few years after that, in the early 60s, arrested in Birmingham for singing together on the steps of the Baptist church. Because at that time, black and white people were not allowed to sing together. They all spent 2 days in jail, and as soon as they got out, the story is they went right back to the church and started singing together again. And Mamie Brown led them in this song. It's called I'm on My Way. It has a call and response, so Mary's going to sing the call, and I'll sing the response from over here. Please rise in body or spirit. The words are in your order of service.
Freedom.
Through all life flows a love that will not let us go, that will not let us let each other go. So we'll invite you to put one hand over your heart and with the other reach out and experience each other. We are woven together, beloveds, with strong and sturdy threads of love. Go in peace. Be the blessing in this world. Amen.